Welcome to House Call with Dr. Mac, where you get a real doc with straight talk for the whole you. Hey everybody, we're back in the community, and this conversation has been a long time coming, I tell you. So we started off this new year with the subject of addiction. And, you know, if you've been tuning in, we started out with my husband sharing his story with his story with tobacco addiction. And I have been trying to get this particular lady to come and sit down in the House Call community for maybe about a year now, Sheena. Or two. Mm-hmm. My goodness. So we have Miss Sheena Avent in the community today. Welcome to the House Call community, Sheena.
Well, thank you.
And Sheena has so graciously consented to sit down and walk us through her story of addiction. And so today, I'm going to let everybody know that this conversation is going to be one of those that you're going to go back to, you're going to listen to, you're going to pull your notebooks out, you're going to do some writing, because Sheena's story is power-packed. So Sheena, we're just going to jump into this conversation.
Okay.
I would like just to, start out with asking you, are you a native Washingtonian, as they would call?
I am from High Point, North Carolina.
Okay. So how did you migrate to D.C.? What brought you here?
I was born in North Carolina, and my mom moved here when I was about 2.
Okay.
And due to we were taken away from my mom. When she came up here, she got into alcohol.
Okay.
She became addicted to alcohol. We were taken away from my mom as little kids and placed in foster homes.
Okay.
When I got out the foster home, stayed in there about 12 years, I moved to back home to North Carolina.
Okay.
I was doing good. I wanted to not end up like my mom, so I couldn't afford living in Washington, D.C. So I took my 3 kids and we moved to North Carolina for a better life.
Okay.
And it happened for a while. And then probably in my late 30s,
Okay.
I did get introduced to crack cocaine.
And how were you introduced to crack cocaine?
I had a cousin that lived with me, and her and I worked together. And she was introduced to it first. And because we lived together and we worked together, we did everything together. And she invited me out one night with her. And I went, and they were doing cocaine.
Wow.
And she asked me to do some, and I really didn't want to do it because that was one thing. I did not want to end up like my mom. I said I was going to be the best mom ever, and I didn't want to end up like my mom. I didn't want to get into any type of drugs or alcohol and wind up having my kids taken away. So up until I was 30, I did great.
So you just said you didn't want to do anything. So like you said, up until that point. So you didn't have any problems with alcohol?
Nope.
Didn't have any problems with painkillers or addicted to prescription drugs?
Not at all.
And so because of this close proximity to someone in your life that you were with, that's how you were introduced?
Yes.
Wow. So can you take us kind of on a synopsis? I know your story has so many twists and turns in it. And we're going to try and wrap this all up to get to all the points along the way. I call them the milestones in your story along the way. Can you take us to that first hit, as they call it? I mean, do you remember that?
I do. I can never forget it. I remember at this time they were snorting cocaine, and they asked me did I want to do it, and I said okay, and I took they call it a toot when you draw a line and then you snort it.
Okay.
And I did, and I didn't like the feeling because it drained down in my ear. It caused my ear to ache. So I didn't like it. And we left. And so the next week, it was the same thing. So I went with her. and they were doing it a different way. They were smoking it, and I took a smoke, and that was a different feeling than from the actual tooting. And so I winded up spending all my money on crack cocaine. I'll never forget the day I went home and I didn't have any money to buy any food for my kids. So that was the beginning of it. And I continued to go back with her, and then we started purchasing it and bringing it to the house, smoking it. And I did that for a good little while until one day I was in my bedroom, and there was a big mirror in my room. And I got up, and I happened to look at myself. Mm-hmm. And I probably weighed like 125 pounds.
What?
That's when I knew then that I was gone. I had went too far.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And that's a perfect place for me to ask this, because I was wondering, is there a moment where you know?
Yes, that was my moment.
Okay.
But it wasn't enough to make me stop.
Huh. Why not?
Because at that point, I began to like it. I just didn't like what it was doing to me, but I couldn't quit.
You liked what about it?
I liked the feeling. I liked the high that it gave me. You know, it just, it wasn't a long high. It was a high that only lasts enough to make you want more.
Wow.
It didn't last long, but it gave you that feeling, that even a taste that you wanted to taste, you wanted another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And it never was enough.
So when you say it, you just wanted to do another one, were you chasing a particular feeling, or were you just wanting to stay in a certain state? Were you ever able to go back to that point that you were chasing?
No.
I guess I should be my question.
No, you wasn't. You mean, do you ever get that feeling that you did the first time?
Yes.
No, you never get it. That's what you're chasing. You're chasing that high, that feeling of the first time you ever took a hit. I mean, it just was a good feeling, but you never get it again. It's almost like you're not satisfied anymore. It doesn't satisfy you, so it just keep you chasing it over and over and over, all day, all night, until if you have any money, every dime you get is gone, and you can smoke all day and never get that feeling again.
Really?
Yes. Yes.
So what's happening to your children at this point? Because you mentioned you had 3 children. And are they all the same gender? All girls, all boys, girls? How are they? How do they line up?
At this point, I remember every day sending my kids. We went from a refrigerator full of food to no food.
In what space of time?
Probably 2 months.
2 months?
Yes, because I was working and every paycheck was going into crack. So instead of going to the grocery store, I was going to the crack house. And instead of paying my bills, I was buying crack. So it didn't take long to get to that point. But my kids were beginning to wonder what was going on, but they would never say anything.
How old were they?
They were, my son was like 12. My oldest daughter, my oldest son was about 13. My oldest daughter was about 12, because they were like a year apart.
Okay.
And I remember calling my son into the room and telling him that at this point we was about to get evicted. The school was wondering about the kids, the way they were dressing, you know.
Because now it's starting to spill out.
Yes.
And over into a way that everybody starting to see.
Yeah, and I started to feel embarrassed even myself, and I needed to get away. So we got evicted. We stayed in a hotel until the money ran out. But in between that, my kids began to want, their friends begin to tell them that your mom is on drugs, because now they see me out in the street. They see me buying, they see me.
They see you.
And then they tell my kids. And so at this point.
What did your kids say to you?
My kids love me so much.
Wow.
They didn't say anything. They were hurt because I had to tell them the truth. And I told them we were moving, so I thought if we left North Carolina and came back to D.C., that I could get myself together. But when we got here, it was like lights, camera, and action. I'm in the big city. There's drugs everywhere. There's people stay up all night. They don't go to sleep. So now what used to be maybe the weekend when I got paid became now every day.
Oh.
And my mom took care of my kids for me, and it wasn't hard to meet people on drugs. It was everywhere.
Wow.
In the city. I mean, so instead of me changing my life, it got worse.
It ramped up.
Yes, it got really bad.
You were able to secure a job when you got here?
No, I didn't work at all.
So
I worked a few. I got a job, but I didn't keep it.
Okay.
Because I couldn't, because the addiction wouldn't let me work, because I wanted to stay high all the time.
Wow. Man, that is such a deep point, that the addiction wouldn't let you work.
No.
Because you wanted to stay high all the time, because you were trying to chase that
same feeling.
Now, this is interesting to me, because when you talk about the way you were introduced and the way this was brought into your life, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't get a sense that there was any type of hopelessness or desperation in your life, like you were looking for a way out of anything, but that it was really the company. Or was that also something that was lurking in the background?
Well, I did not realize really how bad I was until I came to D.C. I knew that I was bad, but I thought I could get it together if I just got out of the environment.
Okay.
If I just got away from my cousin, if I just came to Washington, D.C., that I could start new.
Okay, because of the way it was introduced to you. And so when you get to D.C. and things are getting worse, how bad did it get at your worst?
At the worst, it got bad to where I was actually selling myself. Staying out all night, prostituting myself on West Virginia Avenue, where all they call it crackheads. That's what they called us. They labeled us as crackheads. So I walked the streets all night, and I slept all day. So my job, that was my job. My job was to sell myself at night, get what I want. And then when daytime come, I would go home and get some rest and come back out and do the same thing.
What was happening with your children at this point?
My mother had them.
Okay.
And she had the kids. And it was a crack house like down the street. And my kids would come down there in the morning and knock on the door and ask the people where I was. Is my mom in there? And they knew I was in there, and I would be hiding behind the door saying, no, I'm not here. And I would watch my kids turn around and cry and walk back up the street. I felt really bad, but not bad enough to go after them or to stop. What stopped me was, after a while, the addiction, I can remember walking the streets at night. Now, at this point, I want out. Because I've been beat. I've been tricked out of my money. I've been tricked with the cocaine. I buy the crack. I get home. It's not real. I get in a car. I make a trick. Then I get a gun put to my head. Get out my car. I don't get the money. I don't get the drugs. I don't get anything. So now it's no longer fun anymore. So I want out, but I don't know how to get out. So I remember walking the streets, asking God to help me.
Mercy.
So one night, the last run that I had, this guy picked me up on 12th and Varnum. See how God do things. Never knew anything about Providence, but that just went in there because I now work at Providence, but on 12th and Varnum. I was sitting there on the corner, and the guy made a U-turn and came and picked me up. And when I was riding in his car, and this feeling that I had never felt before came over me, and I knew at that point I had gotten into the wrong car. But I didn't know where I was at because I didn't know anything about Northeast. And I didn't know whether to jump out the car. I was afraid if I jumped out that another car was going to run me over. So I rode it out, and we went to this apartment. And when he got to the door, there wasn't any lights on in the apartment. And I remember him saying, "Go ahead." And I said, "Can you cut the light on?" And he said, "You don't need any lights." So his whole tone changed. I knew I was in the wrong car. I knew I was. I knew this guy was going to do something to me. And we went into the empty apartment, and he raped me, and he pulled out this big knife, and he said, "If you scream, I will kill you." Well, I knew he was for real because my whole life flashed before me. Before I had kids, all the way up to my kids, to the age that they were now, to every piece of drug that I had bought, to every person. I mean, my whole life flashed before me. And he did what he had to do, and he left me in the apartment. I just knew he was going. I prayed to God that, "God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do this again." That was the turning point for me.
Okay.
There, because that night after I left, I wound up walking. I was terrified. I was afraid that he was going to come back and he was going to kill me. I mean, all kind of thoughts was going in my head. So I made it back to my house.
Okay.
And that next day, I called my friend that I was living with. When I told him what happened, he said that was good. That's what you get for being out there. Yeah, and the police came anyway, and they told him that's not what you get because nobody has a right to be forced to have sex with an object. And we couldn't find the guy.
Okay.
And I knew then that I had to get myself together.
Wow. So we're going to fast forward a little bit because now you've told us, now I got to get myself together. What's Seton House?
I looked in the phone book, and I looked for drug programs, and that Seton House came up.
Really?
Well, that next day I called the program, and I asked them, could I come in? And they told me yes, to come to Providence Hospital emergency room. And I went there, and I had drugs on me when I went. And they were taking so long to call me, Keisha. Every chance that I got, I was smoking crack in the emergency room bathroom.
No, you weren't.
Yes. Yes, I was just like, I was a crackhead. I was addicted. So I had my drugs with me in my pocket, waiting to be admitted to go into Seton House. And they finally called my name. And by the time I went around to registration, they told me. So I threw my drugs in the trash can in the emergency room. They called my name. I went to registration. When I got to registration, they told me they didn't have a bed for me.
Oh my goodness.
Can you imagine how I felt? Because at first, here I am thinking, this is it.
Yeah.
I'm
yeah.
done. And then I get there and they tell me that they don't have a bed. So now I got to go back out there again. So I go back to the emergency room and I'm looking in the trash can.
You trying to find?
I'm trying to find
your
my
crack.
My crack. And the lady in the emergency room asked me, "Can I ask you something? What are you looking for?" And I said, "I'm looking for my drugs." And she said, "Drugs?" I said, "Yes. When they called my name, I threw it in the trash." She said, "Well, baby, housekeeping has came and they emptied the trash and you won't find no drugs."
That quick.
That quick. So you know what I did?
Don't tell me you went and made some money and bought some drugs.
Nope. I went home. The lady said, if you go home and you go back out and we call you and you don't answer, you miss your spot. So I went home and I stayed home. And when they called me that morning, I went and I got my spot.
Wow.
I was done.
You were determined.
I was finished. I needed to get my life back together because my children needed me.
Wow.
They needed me. They were going through all types of things. My son was in North Carolina and he was in college and somebody had stole all his clothes, and my daughter was in California with her stepmom who made her have an abortion and made her drive 2 days to Washington D.C. and not tell her father that she was bleeding. Then my other two kids that were the younger kids that were with me, they were seeing me do these drugs and they were begging me not to leave home, and I was carrying the TV out and taking their school money, and I just my kids needed me, and I needed to get back to my kids.
Okay.
So that night I knew
You were done.
I was done. I was done.
So Seton House is an inpatient
Yes.
program.
Mm-hmm.
And Seton House is on the properties of Providence Hospital,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
Now, are they affiliated with Providence Hospital, or is it that they just happen to be in close proximity?
They are affiliated.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So they are a part of Providence Hospital. And now you have your bed. Can you give us a little glimpse of what the program entailed for you? What an inpatient program meant for you?
It meant that I had a chance to get my life back together.
It meant hope.
It gave me hope.
Wow.
And they will always say that only one person is going to be successful. And I used to say, and I'm going to be that one person.
What?
And they said because so many people come in and out these doors that only one person makes it. And I was determined that one person was going to be me. Yes.
Wow. How long was your program? How long was your inpatient program?
My program was, I got a little sensitive.
That's okay. That's all right.
Excuse me. It was like 14 days in
14
inpatient, and then you had to do 9 to 9. You had to leave every day. You had to come every morning be there at 9.
Okay.
And you would stay until 9 o'clock that night. And you did meetings all day. They fed you. They gave you medication to help with the crave. And so it was up to you that when you left at 9 o'clock that night to come back 9 o'clock that morning. Wow. So I did that every day. It was like a year program.
Really?
Yes. So the whole program, inpatient and outpatient, was like 1 year.
Wow. A year. And you had medication that you were taking.
Yes.
Did you take medication the entire year?
No.
Or it was just for
No, just for the craving, just to keep you from craving the drug. Okay. It wasn't any medicine for psychiatric reasons.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Now, you came to a point where we were just talking about you were going to be that one. And this is how our paths connected, because you are that one. Let's talk about how that connects with Providence Hospital. Tell us about the Providence Gala.
Oh, yeah.
And was that 2010 or I can't remember?
Yes.
It was 2010?
Maybe 3-4 years down the road, Providence was having a gala. They were doing a fundraising for Seton House. And they needed somebody that had went through their program that was successful. So Dr. Bannister, she found me or something, and she realized that she found out I worked at Providence, because at that time when I came out the program, the 9 to 9 aftercare, one of the ladies I did get sick, and I had to go to the emergency room, and the same lady that saw me digging in the trash
can, have mercy. Look at this, look at this, look at this. Okay.
She was there, and she was like, "Don't I know you?" And I was like, "Yes," and because I remember her well. Wow. And I reminded her where, and she was like, "Oh my God, God is so awesome." She said, "So what are you doing?" I told her I worked as at McDonald's as a manager. She said, "No, God got something better for you." She said, "I'm going to get you a job here at the hospital and housekeeping." She said, "That'll get you in the door, and then you can move yourself around."
Okay. This story's getting real good.
Yes.
It's already been good, but she said, "You're gonna get in the door."
Yeah, she said
housekeeping.
She said God has something better for you.
The people that threw away your stuff. Okay.
Yes, the nurse. Yes.
Wow.
The ER nurse.
You were able to become employed by Providence Hospital and start working in the environmental services and housekeeping. And then there's a gala that happens.
Yes.
That Providence Hospital is raising funds for Seton House.
Yes.
And they want to have somebody. They want to highlight a story, a success story.
Yes.
And here you are.
Yes.
The success story.
Yes.
And you're now working at Providence Hospital.
Yes.
So tell us about the gala. Tell us what happened, how that story happened.
They came, they found me, and they asked me could they do an interview. Could they interview me and my children as being one of the successful people that came from Seton House program. Wow. So I was excited, and I was like, yes. And they came to my house. They set the cameras up. And here my kids, we were sitting in there, and they was all excited, and they recorded us. And it got really, really, they got deep. It was really, really touching for me and my kids. And they gave us tickets to the gala.
Wow.
And that night, it poured down raining.
Oh, no, because then the hair and the whole dress and the shoes
so
and
look,
everything.
When I walked through the door,
tell me how this
I'm on
worked
the
out.
screen. I'm on the screen talking, and everybody's looking that way. So when I walk in the door, I'm standing up with that wet hair and everything, like Carrie. Remember the movie Carrie?
Yes.
So One person goes, there she is. And all the doctors, the nurses, the administration, they turn around and there I am. And I'm just standing there like, and Keisha, people was coming to me saying, come to my department. I'm going to give you a job. Especially radiology. I had been running the supervisor down, asking, begging them. I'm trying to get out of housekeeping now. I'm 5 years into housekeeping. I'm trying to get out. And I'm begging these people for a job, and they wouldn't give me the time of day. So that night at the gala, I had about 4 directors with tears coming out their eyes. After they saw the story, they met me in the hall, and they hugged me, and they were telling me, come to my department tomorrow. I'm going to give you a job. Especially the radiology supervisor, because she could relate.
Why could she relate?
Because her son was on crack. She never told anybody, but when she saw that story, it touched her heart. And the next day, I went to radiology, and she hired me.
What?
Yes. She sure did.
Have mercy.
But she wouldn't look at me twice. She would see me coming down the hall and turn and go the other way. But that night at the gala,
because she could relate. She knew somebody could actually relate to her.
Yes.
And she saw hope.
Yes.
In your story.
Yes, she did.
And that is such a key point. If you don't mind, I'd love to linger in this point right now. That is why we're here. Because when we hear other people's stories, when we see how they connect their stories and connect their health dots, is what I call it, because you've had health challenges with all of this. I mean, this is part of your health. This is part of your mental health. This is part of your physical health, your spiritual health. This is part of your family's health. When you begin to pull it all together and connect those dots, and you see a whole person, and not just an addiction, not just a problem, but you see a whole person, you can begin to experience whole person care. You can begin to operate as a whole person and be optimal. And that's what she saw.
Yes.
And that's what we're hoping here. That's our mission. So as people are sitting here listening to your story and they see you connect all these dots, they can say, you know what? I can have hope. Or, wow, maybe I do have a problem with X, Y, and Z. It may not be crack cocaine. It may not be tobacco. We're just talking about addictions this month, but it could be something else.
Right.
It could be as simple as an addiction to sugar. I mean, it could be very simple, but it can be something that's hard, that's hindering you or hindering us from having optimal health. And that is such a key point, that no matter who you are, no matter your station in life or your status or who you think you are because of your status, she saw hope.
Yes.
She saw hope. And that is such a powerful part of your story.
Yes.
And that's where we started talking too, because not only have you been in the radiology department, but where else do you work?
I work in the lab now as a phlebotomist.
Yeah. So you have
and
become...
not only that, God has blessed me with my own, I went to school to become I'm a certified addiction counselor myself.
Thank you. This is the perfect segue, because I was going to say, what else are you doing now?
I have my own business called Steps by Steps. It's spiritually transitioning and empowering people with addictions or addictive behaviors.
And where do you operate in a particular place, or do you go to people? Are you a one-on-one counselor? Is it a group therapy session? How does it work for you?
Right now, it's just a one-on-one, just me meeting people, starting with conversation, and they'll wind up telling me a little bit about them and their addictive behaviors, and I reach out and help any way I can. I'm not really operating in one particular setting right now, but in due time.
Yes, yes. Now, are you still affiliated with Seton House at all?
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that once you graduated from the program, you became the success story. There, that was a chapter in your life. But you do refer people to Seton House if you think that they do need to go there.
Yes.
Okay. Wow, Sheena, this is such a powerful story. So, what do your children say now?
They are very proud of their mom. We talk about it sometime, but they try to forget the past.
Okay.
They don't dwell in it. They don't throw it up in my face. They are very happy. And all this, I look back over my life and I say, wow, the life that I came from, I was abused as a child. My stepfather abused me, put in a foster home, then they abused me. The foster mother sons, they abused me, till sex was like, just, it didn't have any meaning to me. I didn't love anybody. Sex was just something that I did because it was something that people did to me all the time. Wow. They just, and so out of all that, I just felt like at some point in my life, I had kids early. I had my first child when I was 16, the next one I was 17, the next one when I was 20, the next one when I was 22. So
boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom. And I was very young myself, and before I had my kids, I'm the oldest of 8, and my mom was an alcoholic, so that left me to take care of those kids.
Okay.
And so it was, my life was just one chapter after the other, after the other, after the other. And now this chapter that I'm in now, out of all that, I never thought that any man would really love me for me. But I can truly say that my husband really loves me.
Yes, and he's here today with us here at House Call.
He do. Even with everything that has happened to me in life, there is nothing that I couldn't say right here in front of him, because there is nothing that I didn't tell him. Wow. I shared everything with him, all my prostitution, all the drugs, all the abuse. Wow. So I could sit here freely and say all those things in front of him, and he could still go home and still love me.
That's another deep topic.
Yes.
We're going to have to touch back on that in the month of February. We're gonna touch back on that. Oh, my goodness. You got my mind. Hold on. I got to jot that down. I'm sorry. House Call, hold on with me. You know, I got to jot it down. Yes. I also wanted to bring out a point. You talked about some family history and family addictions. It sounds like your mother had an addiction to alcohol.
Yes.
You've had drug addiction. Did any of your children have any problems?
No, thank God.
Wow.
No.
Man.
No.
And do you have any grandchildren?
I have 11 grandchildren.
Oh, excuse me? You have how many?
11. From 19 to 2.
You don't know. You don't look. So House Call, you have to go to the YouTube channel to see this glamma. She's not a grandma. She's a glamma. Because she does not look like she has 11 grandchildren.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. But do you all, do you talk to them about addictions and about things that, are not good for them in their lives? And you're very open with them.
And my grandkids are very open with me.
Okay.
We have a wonderful relationship. They talk to their grandmother a lot, and I talk to them a lot. And I just thank God. I said, well, God, if I just had to be on drugs, I thank God that it happened when it did, because I have such a great relationship with my grandkids. If they had to see me like that, I don't know what I would have done. I'm so glad that they don't know that part of me. I hate that it happened to my kids, but we love our grandkids so much that if it just had to happen, my kids were still older when it happened, so when it happened, they will always say, I just want my mom back. So they knew what type of mom I was.
Right, you were.
And that was their hope. Their
Mm-hmm.
hope was that she would come back. So when I did, they was just glad to have their mom back.
I see. I see what you're saying.
Well, my cousin, her kids, she had her kids on drugs. So her kids only knew her one way. And now her grandkids only know her one way because she's still on drugs. Wow. To this day.
You know, I have to go back to a point that you made and Wendell made that seems to be a common thread. You had to come to a point for yourself.
Yes.
Where you said, I'm done.
I'm done. Yes.
There was no external force. There was nothing outside of yourself that made you come to that point. It seems like you came to a realization within your own mind, heart, soul, body that you're like, I'm done.
And you have to get to that point. Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can, no matter how bad you hurt your kids, no matter how bad you hurt your husband, no matter how bad you hurt people. If you don't make the decision that you're done, then nothing else matters. So it has to be you. I had to get to that place where I was sick and tired, that I wanted my life back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. You know, I wanted to ask, I've heard, alcoholics that will refer to themselves as, I'm a recovering alcoholic, or if they're in an AA meeting, they'll say their name and they'll say, and I'm an alcoholic. Do you feel the need to ever have some type of a label that says you're either continuing to recover or that you have to give yourself that label at all at this point?
No, I'm delivered.
All right. All right. You answered my question. Oh, my goodness.
I'm delivered, I'm healed, and I'm free. Yes.
The end.
The end. Yes.
You know what? I don't know what else to say at this point. The only other thing is we usually give our community a tip of the day. So we usually have our guest to think of just something. It can be about addiction. It can be about loving yourself. It can be whatever you want, whatever your heart is impressed to say. We usually leave that with the community as the tip of the day. So if there's anything you can think of to give our community for a tip of the day.
My tip for today is where I am today, and that's to get a relationship with God. That's my tip.
And with that, we're going to leave it right there. Till next time, we'll see you guys back here in the community. Bye now.